Wait, you're fucking kidding me. Someone actually greenlit this show? Are you sure it wasn't a mistake? Because who the hell would do that? Do they actually know who I am? Oh, okay, that makes sense now. Oh well, better strike while the iron is hot, or at least still warm. Ha ha! Are you ready? Welcome to the inaugural episode of the Fantasy Football Monsters. I am your host and defending league champion, Adolf von Murderstein. And somehow, I got stuck with this decaying sack of shit over here as a co-host, that zombie guy.
Is that all I am to you? That zombie guy? Everyone, my name is... Shit. What is my name?
You don't have one, you dumbass. It took me 2 years in the championship to get one. Wait your fucking turn.
Fuck that! I'm not doing your stupid show if I don't at least have a name.
Fine. You want a name? Let me see. You look like a Jimmy. Yep, you're Jimmy now.
I kinda walked into that one. Sure, I'm good with Jimmy.
So, apparently we officially got the Ted Lasso treatment.
What the fuck is a Ted Lasso? Is that some cowboy shit?
Do you not keep up with pop culture? I'm over 700 years old and I keep up with pop culture better than you. Ted Lasso is basically the reason anyone subscribes to Apple TV. It's a fucking ad NBC ran for soccer almost 10 years ago that got adapted into a TV show. Some piss-ass thing no one had ever seen before turned into the best thing since sliced fucking bread.
So are you saying because our videos went out to an audience of 1 to 2 dozen before, and now they're going out to millions of people, we're just like Ted Lasso?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Well, fuck. As long as I can go out to millions, I'm going to use this as a launching pad to spout some of my political beliefs.
The fuck you are? This is Fantasy Football Monsters, not American political assholes. No fucking politics.
Whatever. So what are we going to talk about today then?
Glad you asked, Jimmy. Today we're going to talk about something that perplexes the fuck out of new fantasy players. This is what positions to value and when in the draft.
Seriously, that confused the shit out of me at first. I mean, if Patrick Mahomes is going to be the top scoring guy, why ain't I going to take him first?
You do know the answer to that, right? Because if you're actually as dumb about fantasy football as you look, I've got a werewolf on speed dial to take that co-host chair.
I already know you sanctimonious prick, but I'm just trying to set up the segment. It's called showmanship, dick.
Anyway, the issue isn't scoring, it's scarcity. Now I even tried to do some math to try to prove this point. We're going to look at what a traditional roster might look like. 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 flex, 1 kicker, 1 defense. We're also going to look at this from the perspective of a 12-team league. Now, every team has a starting quarterback. Barring injury, you know they're going to be in the game and playing. We aren't wondering if Jalen Hurts is going to suit up for Philly. This means that there are 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL. Since you can only play one, that means only 12 out of 32 quarterbacks, or 37.5% of them, are going to see play. Last year, the top quarterback averaged around 26 points, and the 12th best still had 18. And yes, you'd rather have Patrick Mahomes than Trevor Lawrence, but it's not like you have a bad player if you have to start T-Law.
Yeah, obviously that makes sense, Einstein.
Running backs are where shit starts to get real. Where every team has a starting quarterback, teams get divided on running backs. It used to be that most every team had a bell cow running back who was going to get most of the snaps. But a lot of the teams started realizing when they do that, their running backs get beat to shit. They get a few good years and then they're done. And when they have really good years, you have to pay them. What happens is you end up with shit like they had in Dallas and Minnesota this offseason. Zeke and Dalvin were putting up huge numbers for their teams. For this, they got paid. Shortly after, for various reasons, Pollard and Madison got their shots, and they found out that they were also very good, as well as younger and much cheaper. So even though Zeke and Dalvin can still go, they get fucked by economics, and both are still currently unemployed. What teams are starting to realize is that when you have a Zeke and a Pollard, or a Cook and a Madison, you put them in a committee.
Why the fuck would you do that? Just play the better one.
Nope. This makes sure that both get fewer snaps and fewer touches, which does a few things. One, it's less wear on both of them, making sure they both have enough in the gas tank for the whole season. Two, it lowers both of their season totals. That keeps their values in check. In the end, you can probably keep both of them for the price you'd pay for one of them otherwise.
Fucking cheap-ass owners.
Whatever. What it really does, though, is make them both significantly less fantasy viable since you don't know who's going to get more week to week. It makes their value cliff more, but there are still teams that have a very clear number one running back. People like Derrick Henry, Austin Eckler, Josh Jacobs, Christian McCaffrey, Nick Chubb, and others that are still an actual bell cow back. But they are very limited. Having so few, you're lucky if you can get one, and if you wait, you probably won't even get that.
Well, what about wide receivers?
This is a little different. Teams tend to roster more wide receivers, and their productivity can really matter based on the defense. You can be great, but if you get shadowed by someone like Darius Slay, Patrick Surtain, Chartarius Ward, Sauce Gardner, or a handful of others, then your productivity on that day is probably going to be shit. Quarterbacks don't like getting picked off, so they often avoid throwing near those guys. But when you have those super elite wide receivers, guys like Justin Jefferson, and Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, Jamar Chase, and more that are just so damn good it doesn't matter who you put on them, those are the guys that are going to demand a premium in draft. And there are only a handful of them. Get them early or they will be gone.
So what about tight ends? Aren't they just big, slow wide receivers?
I mean, kinda. They're the short yardage guys for the score to pick up the first down because they're big and can muscle their way to getting the ball. They typically aren't your big play guys. Though people like Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, and George Kittle are starting to make people notice more as they get larger and larger roles in offenses and prove that even big dudes can be fast sometimes.
But even then, compared with wide receivers, they still don't have the numbers.
Yeah, you have about 4 to 5 premium tight ends, and everyone else you mostly just hoping they don't put up a 0. So if you're in a good spot to take one of the premium tight ends, then do it, but not at the expense of a premium running back or wide receiver. I mean, unless you're playing in Scott Fishbowl 13, whose scoring is weighted in favor of tight ends. Travis Kelce was the first pick overall in many drafts there.
Scott Fish, what? What the hell are you talking about?
We'll cover it later. Anyways, kickers. The problem with kickers is that they're all mostly the same. I mean, sure, you have your elite ones here too. Justin Tucker, Harrison Butker, Tyler Bass, to name a few. But even the premium ones are still only average maybe 1 or 2 points higher than everyone else. The difference between K1 and K24 last year was right around 4 points. It barely matters.
And you also have team defenses.
This is a stupid fucking category, I think. Like kickers, you have some teams that tend to do better, but this is super matchup dependent at best, and like trying to throw darts when blindfolded and shit-faced at worst. There's a reason why sometimes people don't even draft a defense. I don't subscribe to that theory, but I get it.
So this explains a lot when it comes to figuring out where to draft players. Looking at the latest ESPN cheat sheet, the highest quarterbacks ranked 24th, and only one tight end is a first-round candidate, with the next highest being 43rd. Defenses don't even start getting listed till 140, and kickers not till 150.
You got it. Honestly, for the new players, pay attention to the cheat sheets. Seriously, you're very unlikely to out-analyze those guys. I mean, if you want to take running back 11 over running back 10, sure. But players end up in their average draft position, or ADP, for a reason. ADP is basically just a huge consensus of people. Now, your own team needs should go ahead of ADP. If you open the draft running back, more than likely you don't want to take another running back, even if they have the best ADP. Team composition is very important.
And buys too. Quickest way to get fucked in the draft is not realizing that most of your guys have their bye weeks concentrated in a couple of weeks. Spread that shit out.
You're right. For 2023, there are a few weeks you really have to look out for. Weeks 7 and 13 are the only 2 weeks where 6 teams have byes. Of those, week 13 feels the scariest, with the Ravens, Bills, and Vikings all on bye. Week 7 is still a problem with the Bengals, Cowboys, and Jets all on bye. Other really problematic weeks include week 10, when both Super Bowl teams from last year are on bye, along with the Dolphins.
Don't forget week 9 either, where you lose the Lions, Jags, and 49ers.
Sure, either way, don't ignore byes when drafting. Avoiding a particular bye situation is definitely a reason to choose one player over another.
Great. So we're gonna get into some of that hardcore analysis now, right? Debating which players are best at which slots and coming in with hot takes that would make even Stephen A. Smith or Skip Bayless scratch their heads?
I mean, it's a long-ass season. We're gonna talk a ton of shit over the year. But this is the pilot. We have to see if people even give a shit about us. And while we're definitely gonna get into more particular analysis, I mean, let's be honest, we're probably not the guys who break this shit down into minute detail. Plenty of podcasts for that. If you're listening to us, it's probably because you're newer and or like being entertained along with following fantasy football.
Bah! I'm gonna slip some shit in over the upcoming weeks, whether that bloodsucker likes it or not.
We'll talk off air.
So what's that fishing thing you talked about earlier?
Scott Fishbowl. It's the unofficial official start to the fantasy football season. The world's biggest fantasy football tournament with 3,324 players, and has some of the best analysts and other people from across sports and other worlds. Anyone who is anyone in the industry is there, and it's all about charity. They raise thousands and thousands of dollars yearly through awareness and merch sales. I mean, even a bloodthirsty monster like me thinks we need a little more charity in this world. If you're not already in, by the time you see this, it's too late. But Scott Fishbowl 14 is next year, so you can go ahead and get on the interest list right now at scottfishbowl.com. The scoring is different every year. Besides being a super flex league, it also gives extra points to tight ends, which make them much more even with wide receivers in scoring.
You don't still hold back drafting quarterbacks in the Superflex League, do you?
Fuck no. If one quarterback means 37.5% of the active quarterbacks are being played each week, 2 means 75%. Figure in buys, and if you don't prepare there, you get fucked. In my Scott Fishbowl League, the first wide receiver or running back didn't even get taken until 10th pick. And I think that was completely correct. Hell, I didn't take my first running back until the 4th round, and my first wide receiver until the 6th. I also think my team is fucking great. They let me take Kelsey from the 8th spot, and it wasn't even because I threatened to murder anyone ahead of me if they took him.
So you're just bragging now?
So what if I am? You forget I don't give a shit what people think. I'm still the goddamn champ, baby.
Whatever. We gonna take some calls or something?
No, you moron. This is pre-recorded. We aren't live. Plus, how the fuck are we supposed to take phone calls when we're both played by the same person?
I guess you got a point there. Well, what now?
Well, now we kind of hope people like this shit. I mean, we went to the LA draft for the Scott Fishbowl, and we're getting ready to go to the Fantasy Football Expo in Canton.
Maybe one of those guys knows a guy who knows a guy and gets us an actual gig doing this. I don't know about you, but this working for free where no one knows or cares about you thing sucks.
Finally, we agree on something. But also, it could be a girl. Who knows a girl who knows a girl? It's fucking 2023, you misogynistic prick.
Whatever. I don't give a damn what genitalia they have if it gets us in the door.
If you're that person, reach out. You're probably seeing this because Scott gave you the link and some contact info. We're cheaping because he's probably doing shit like this for fun anyway, but fuck it, it'd be nice to have a platform. Next time, we'll go deeper into draft strategies and give some live reports from training camps once they open. For Jimmy, I'm Von Murder, hoping you have a wonderful, terrifying evening. Ha ha!